I'm hearing about brands that are hiring kids to be on their creative team. And these kids, like 12 years old, 14 years old, they're doing stuff. I collaborate, like I did a lot of work for Coca-Cola in the past years. And part of this work were done by influencers. And we are hiring like two kids, like literally like 15, 16 years old to do stuff for us. Because we are like relying on gaming and we wanted them doing that with us because I think it helps. Like honestly, like I'm so open-minded that I love to be in a brainstorm with a 12 years old because they're gonna bring like a new vision to the table. Like at the same time, I love to be in the same room with a 80 years old that's gonna bring experience.
That is Gabriel Araujo, creative director at Havas Lynx. Hello and welcome to the Create Tomorrow podcast. As always, in this podcast, you will learn about how product innovations, actions and strategies, and online behaviors are shaping the way we are creating tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, Head of Marketing and Events Insight at WGSN. Today, we'll be looking at how advertisers must cope with and evolve to meet consumers' depleting attention spans, the role of AI in advertising and creativity, and how joy is a key factor moving forward. Joining me to explore this topic, as I mentioned before, is Gabriel Araujo, Creative Director at Havas Lynx, an award-winning marketer with several Cannes Lion Awards and global expertise. Gabriel, can you tell us what it is that you do at Havas Lynx and a little bit about your career journey so far?
So like at Havas, we are pretty much doing work for the pharma and health industry. We are specialized in patient communication. We love to do work that matters. So we are always trying to look for beautiful meaning behind it. Like we love to do work that change people's lives for real. That's how and what made me join Havas Lynx. It's because I love the culture. It's very much about people and they really take care of people, not only inside the agency, but in every campaign you're going to go live. So that's very powerful for me.
And then just a little bit about your experience as a marketer briefly, because you're being very modest. You were a Cannes Lion winner multiple times. So could you give our listeners a little bit of insight into your experience?
I think I have like this creative soul since I'm a child and like always exploring, always like curious, always like thinking about something else. And since then, like I decided what I wanted to do, like when I was like 12, I think, like I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be creating stuff. And I started as a copywriter at Young and Rubicon in Brazil, like many, many years ago. I did along my career, like I've been working for big agencies, for boutique style agencies. And I was the global CCO for Ogilvy in Europe for 3.5 years. I was taking care of all the office in Brussels, like Amsterdam, like London, Paris, and a few other offices around the world. We, of course, won multiple awards. I'm very low profile to talk about them. But I'm very happy that all the awards that I got in my career were real work and not work that we did to get awards. So very proud of that. So like one of the works that I love, and we're going to talk about this later, but it's a work that we did in 2017 and that's still going on. So that's something that is very powerful for me. And along my career, like I also like love to explore creativity in many different ways. One of the ways is of course like photography. So I have like my photography project on the side. We can talk about it later. And music. So like I'm not a musician. I can't consider myself a musician, but I love to play my guitar. I love to write songs. I love to produce songs. So I think like this give me a range of like trying to explore creativity in many different ways.
Amazing. So we're in a time of depleting attention spans and there's more ad slop than ever before. So I want to start by asking you, what makes a good ad today?
I think it's the ads that doesn't look like ads. Like I think when we started to create something that interrupts people, they are in a journey, like they are scrolling, the algorithm are just sending what they like. And then sometimes like they have a break and this break doesn't communicate with them. So like you really need to understand like how natively we have to create something that has exactly the face of the platforms, like how we're going to communicate something. The way you're going to do something for TikTok is different than the way you're going to do something for Instagram Reels. That it's different than what you're going to do on YouTube. So like I think most of the campaigns, like when I'm creating something, I'm always trying to understand if there's any universal truth we can lean in creatively and kind of like tweak a little bit in a fresh angle so we can really like show something different there. But at the same time, like that has to be something that are going to speak to people, that has to create some emotion. Because like if it's something average, like let's say like you are on social media, you're on the phone like pretty much all day, like everybody's in the phone like for hours every day. You are being impacted by at least 500 ads in that day. My question is, what are the ads you remember? Because they're just messages. They're not creating emotions. And we are humans. We are people. Like we are based in emotions. Like something that you remember is something that touch you. So like we need to do something that really touch people.
I love that. Great answer. You mentioned earlier that you like working on ads that matter. So, do you think that advertisers have a sort of new responsibility in today's day and age to really educate the public through messaging or perhaps using nudge theory to encourage people to take action on something? An example that comes to mind that I think is a good example of this is Burger King in Brazil actually encouraged locals to vote and educated them about the social impact of voting during the last election, which happened last year. So those who voted could actually bring their stubs, their proof of voting to Burger King to actually claim a free fry or an onion ring, I believe. So is that something that you think is sort of a non-negotiable today to really help educate the public, maybe to create some positive change in the world?
I think we are in a position to influence culture and we need to do it right. We need to influence culture in a way where we're going to make good for people. I think we should add more transparency about everything we are creating. My point is that we have to influence in a good way. Like everything we created, like we really need to understand, like, am I creating something that could be toxic for people? Am I creating something that people are gonna share or that's gonna backfire the brand in a way? Or, I mean, I think we have two things to do. Like we have first understand that the role of advertising is to sell and build brands. So like we need to be aware of that. Second, the role of advertising and the way we like to do advertising is to look at creativity at the core and also like really try to influence culture in the best way possible. So like that's the second thing. The third thing for me is create real conversations. Like it's not like me like throwing an arrow like on the target and done. Like it's more of a ping pong and we're gonna keep like playing, we're gonna keep like talking, we're gonna keep like interacting. And I think as much as we do now, like we also need to think about experiences, like what the brands can provide as a positive experience to the audience so they can relate to the brands in a good way. But we are not in an era of madmen anymore. So like we need to put our hearts in what we do. And I think we are always trying to do that in the best way, at least here.
Without getting too political, how important is it for brands to take a stand on politics? So we're increasingly seeing statistics that say consumers expect and actually demand brands align with their values, take a stand on important issues. If you're a brand or if you're a marketer, if you're an advertiser, do you have to double down on a cause and be okay with losing consumers along the way who might not align with the values that you might have? And is this really the way forward for brands where they won't have a choice but to be political in the future?
In a way, you have to pick your fight. I think it's not more about like you not trying to lean in anything, like you don't want to compromise or whatever. So like if you're as a brand, like once you stand up and do something and really like talk, my only concern and my only question is always about like that will be long term or that would be something you're just jumping in a trend. Because for me, that's the difference. Like if you're just jumping in a trend to look good, I think this will possibly backfire in the brand.
Yeah. Kind of continuing on that conversation, like there's been a lot of news recently, particularly here in the US, about the rolling back of DE&I initiatives. But the majority of consumers, just like they want brands to really align with their values, they really demand that brands make an effort in this regard. So WGSN has said that brands will need to adapt diversity for survival mindset, including historically ignored or excluded voices and experiences of individuals, cultures, and communities to really grow market share and long-term loyalty. I think your photography project really lends itself to this conversation. So maybe now's a great time to kind of introduce that and tell our listeners a little bit about that initiative.
If you want to change anything, we need to do something. My photography project, I went to the middle of the Amazon rainforest, like 4 hours by boat, middle of nowhere. And the only reason I did that is because I love art and I was never seeing indigenous people, like even like indigenous women represented in the best way in art. And I wanted to express their real beauty, and I started to recreate the most famous art masterpieces like Mona Lisa, the girl of the pearl earring, like the ballerinas, using indigenous women and indigenous little kids. So like the only reason I did that is to give them a voice. And I lived in the Amazon for a year and something, and I was in this tribe a lot of times, and I create a very special relationship with them and with the forest. So like this is something that I'm doing for years and I'm doing for real. So I think when you step and you wanted to change something, and that's what I'm trying. We need to create conversation. This is a very positive conversation around like inclusion in art and not make them like being invisible as they are invisible for a lot of people now, for a lot of the government. So like I think in my case, like I'm trying to bring light to them and I'm trying to kind of change this expression and really like make people understand that they have to be respected. They are the originary people in this land, and we really needed to step up and talk about it.
Switching gears just a little bit now. So, the concept of what is real is sort of the ultimate question that's really dominating our culture these days, both in how marketers define what's real, but also how audiences uncover reality and truth. Now, with new tools like generative AI really rendering anyone to become an expert artist seemingly overnight, questions around authenticity will start to kind of become the new norm. So, I'm kind of wondering here, do you consider this reality when creating ads? And do you think that there is a responsibility on marketers to really call out when they're working with an AI tool and when they're not? Like even virtual humans, for example, a lot of ads are now being littered with people that don't actually exist. Do we have a responsibility to really educate the public on this?
Yeah, we have it. Every time we are presenting a campaign that we use AI to do like the layouts, we have a tag saying like this was AI generated. So we can make it clear for everybody. I think AI will not replace like humans in any way. I think human insights are so deep and profound that I don't think a machine will be able to do that. At the same time, like AI is helping us to reduce the time to do a lot of things, and that's amazing. So, like, if you need to, like, we create a campaign, we create like this beautiful concept board, and I need to roll out to like many different formats and assets. I use AI. AI does that for me, like in a few minutes. And then we just need to adjust stuff. So, like, I think if we use AI consciously, like as a tool to help you on a daily basis in your work.
Yeah. What about this new creator economy that's kind of emerged as a result of AI tools? Do you think that we're going to start to see independent creators or even young people, kids, contributing really meaningful work in the future? Do you think that the great ads of tomorrow are essentially going to be AI generated by anyone? It doesn't necessarily need to be formally trained agency people.
Yeah, I think again, like when we are relying on content, like and content creators and like these new creators, these video makers, these like new whatever they called. I think honestly, when it comes to content, yes, I think that could be done by a lot of different people that are doing like they have their own style, they have their own narrative, they have their own visuals, they have their own like way of like editing their videos and etc. So I think in a way, yes, they're not going to replace, but I think I'm hearing about brands that are hiring kids to be on their creative team. And these kids, like 12 years old, 14 years old, they're doing stuff. I collaborate, like I did a lot of work for Coca-Cola in the past years. And part of this work were done by influencers. And we are hiring like two kids, like literally like 15, 16 years old to do stuff for us. Because we are like relying on gaming and we wanted them doing that with us because I play video games, but like I'm 40. So like it's not about that. So like it's about how they're behaving, what's their own language, how they're gonna talk like while playing games. So like there's a lot of questions like, and of course like at that moment like the soda consumptions were going down too because people want to have like a better and healthier life. But still as a brand, like I think they're talking about good stuff. Like I think it helps. Like honestly, like I'm so open-minded that I love to be in a brainstorm with a 12 years old because they're gonna bring like a new vision to the table. Like at the same time, I love to be in the same room with a 80 years old that's gonna bring experience. So like I think diversity is the core of a good creativity and a good campaign in the end. So like yes, they're gonna keep coming and things are gonna keep evolving and changing. And that's the beauty of like advertising and that's the beauty of communication. We just need to embrace it.
You mentioned that, using AI tools can sometimes beyond just, creativity wise, they could be tools for good, right? So one that came to mind when you said that was the sort of dubbing technology that's been emerging. So essentially you could create a campaign and then AI dubbing tool could render it in many different languages without you having to recreate the ad in many different languages. It saves time, money, resources. Do you think that that's going to become the norm, that we won't need to really localize anything anymore because AI could just kind of create global campaigns that are tailored to individual markets in one go for cheap?
Yeah, I mean like if you can keep using the same actor or actress or the persons in the film, like fine, why not? Like I think that can really well. Like I do that sometimes. Like I do my own videos, but it's me creating my own content. So but the biggest point is that I don't think a global campaign works anymore. I think like now people are looking for something that speak direct to them. So like we really need to have like ads that have these sort of like personalization, but more about not only personalization, but like we wanted to create affinity. And affinity needs to be affinity at scale. So like we are doing something that people are gonna recognize, are gonna talk to that very niche audience. Like I don't want to talk to millions anymore. I want to talk to those few that I can really make my brand change and that they're gonna really like become like advocates of my brand rather than try to do like a big campaign that are gonna not resonate well.
We've been talking a lot about the rise of slow advertising at WGSN. So this means ads that will essentially shift from fast, dull, average, expensive to much slower, more considered, more intentional, strategic, as consumers essentially push back on the sort of churn of meaningless content. So you said before that going outside, you're inundated. I'm in Times Square right now. I'm inundated with probably 700 ads as soon as I step out the door. So slow advertising is just about marketers being a little bit more intentional with time, energy, money, especially as budgets tighten essentially over the next couple of years. So have you taken this approach to creativity at all? And is this something that is slow advertising, something that brands and also in the agency world that they're considering?
Yes, like the last campaign I did here for one of our clients, that took a year. And took a year because we did like around 6 months of research. Like we wanted to understand if that campaign was speaking to multiple audiences in many different countries, and even like changing the actors, changing the way we're speaking to them, that's still gonna work. And in the end of the day, that ended up working quite well. And then we did a shooting, being aware of a lot of things like pretty much on sustainability. Like we did a carbon zero shooting, which was really nice. So that's the thing. I think we need to be aware of like we don't want to do fast enough stuff. Sometimes like if you're working retail, you need to do fast. That's it. That's the only way. But if you're a brand and you wanted to do brand building, you have to think about how your brand are gonna look like, what's going to be your brand voice, like how you want it to be showing your brand in the best way possible. So that takes time. Like it's like emotion. Emotion takes time.
Speaking of tapping into emotions, joy has never been more important in consumer culture. How important is it to cultivate this in the marketing arena? So, how are marketers integrating joy into the creative process, both in terms of creating work themselves and making it a joyful process, but also in the messages that they're putting out?
Think about like the old times, like we're working and working like 18 hours a day to bring a beautiful ad to life, and we're not living, and we're just inside the agencies. And I think now the agencies are changing, like they're aware of like people mental health and how they also need to have experiences outside the agents to bring it. If you have a good experience, like that's gonna inspire you. You're gonna be joyful. Like you're gonna have like I heard about a team the other day that is not about life balance. It's about life harmony. Because if you have harmony at the work, like if you're doing good, if everything's flowing, you like your team, you like the culture, like you're succeeding, you're putting good stuff out there, you're gonna bring it to home, and vice versa. Like if you have like an amazing relationship at home, you're gonna bring it to work. So like this harmony are gonna really like resonate a lot in everything you're gonna do.
What about bringing ads to life? So, whether that's sensorially or in real life through activations, we're increasingly living in this world that is desiring tactility, where consumers want to interact with brands in new ways in real life, in person, and be a part of their community. So, what are marketers doing, or what is Havas doing to bring their brands to life?
I remember going to Formula One last year, going to a Jack Daniels kind of booth they built there, and they didn't like a normal booth. They did a bar. That was very hot in Miami, so like they were giving like cold towels so you can throw on your like neck so you can like cool down a little. They had like the one Formula One car there that we could go in, like take a picture, and they had like a barber shop. Like I ended up like going to Formula One and doing like a haircut and like trimming my beard. So like that was a huge experience. Like, and I remember the brand because it was provided by Jack Daniels. So like again, like I was kind of living the Jack Daniels world there. And that's something that I think we are doing at Havas a lot. Like we have our customer experience teams like always like doing good stuff and bringing insights. So like you can create campaigns that are going to resonate with the audience. So like while like we're doing something for the patients or while we're gonna doing something for the HCPs, we're always like trying to get like something new for them, something that they can go in that can be more immersive and that can bring like a little difference, like more about like living the brand rather than seeing what the brand is doing.
Okay, and like always, my final question is, who is someone that you admire who's creating a version of tomorrow that inspires you?
There's a guy that I admire for many, many years. He's one of my favorite photographers. It's a guy called Sebastian Salgado. He was always like the one showing the toughest parts of the human life. Like he was showing like what's going on inside the Amazon with people like trying to extract gold and how they are suffering. He has this Genesis a book that's amazing. So like they really like showing live. I think like looking to the future, I have like a few people that I admire like in the industry. Like I love like how Dave Droga think about communication and think about like the future of ads and how to, he's trying to bring something that is really good to life and like keeping creativity as the core of everything. And also like adding meaning, like make people like move with the messages we are delivering. So I mean I can't point one person, but there's a lot of like little things in many different persons that I think they're inspire me a lot. And also like my friends inspire me a lot, like in many different ways. So like inspire me to be a better person. My girlfriend inspired me to be a better man. All the people that like my colleagues at work, they inspire me to be a better professional. So like I think it's all about like we being inspired by each other and trying to do the right thing. Like and the right thing can be many multiple different things.
Thank you to my guest, Gabriel Araujo, Creative Director at Havas Lynx. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look for more trends at WGSN.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for our next episode. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzashi, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast, and see you next time.